Changing the geometry. How does that happen? Who can move? We talked about that. It's a really interesting question. The client can move themselves, which is finding that agency we've talked about several times. Like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to stay here in the corner. I can actually choose something different, or I don't have to face this person that's been so painful to me. I can actually choose to move. Though again, you might have to negotiate, as I told you in that case where the guy's lower body stayed, his upper body moved, but his lower body didn't. In that case, I brought in support resources for him, and that helped him make that shift with his whole self, his whole body. You can move the client. It can be really helpful. Somebody might go, no, I can't move in front of my spouse because their back's been to me. So screw them. I don't want to move and go in front of them. But you could perhaps negotiate it somehow and just say, just try it out. You can always go back. You can reset. You can go back to where you were. But how about you try to see what that would be like for you to stand in front of them? And you can gently, literally take them, if they've agreed to touch, you can gently say, okay, I'm going to just guide you over. You move slowly, you don't move their bodies quickly, so that they can reassess and re-experience that different positioning. It can be really helpful for you to move your client and feel very supportive. Client can move others once a revelation or catharsis has happened. So this is really important because, like I just said, if people just move things around without feeling it, or without, it's a weird way to put it, but paying a price, paying the price of truth telling, paying the price of feeling what they've been avoiding feeling, something has to happen within somebody to tolerate and accept and even embrace the change of geometry. So revelation and catharsis is really important. How do you know that's happened? It's usually pretty obvious. They either cry, they either express a bunch of anger, they start to breathe and soften in their body. It might show up not emotionally, but their physiology might seem really different. They might have come in all stressed and harsh and hard, and they've experienced something in the session that has softened them, so that then you're going to have a better sense of what else is possible. Can this client now tolerate people in relationship to them either being in a different position? It doesn't mean that the real life people are necessarily going to be in a different position, but just the fact that the client is willing to accept those people being in different positions, this is part of the magic of it, that client will behave differently towards those people. Now, whether or not the morphogenetic field will also shift something just by what's happened in the session, maybe. There's tons of cases. This has happened to me and in my sessions many times, where all of a sudden the estranged mother will call on the phone during or right after a session. It's pretty freaky. So it seems to have an effect on the actual people, but it definitely has an effect on how the client then sees and perceives and behaves towards those relationships or the world and themselves. So can you move others? This I'm going to get into briefly, and then we're going to move on. But we've talked about several of these instances where you can move mats for diagnostic purposes, to reset something that isn't really working, or for what I call shock and awe. When, for example, that case where, oh, he's got his back to me, it can really prove a point that the person needs to face to either turn the spouse towards them. Oh, you think that's what you want? Okay. How does that feel when you get it? That can shock and awe a system, and within a minute give somebody a huge body-based experience of the alternative, that then they're going to have a better sense of, well, do I actually want that? Maybe not. I'm out of here. Or, wow, I really do want that. So something like that can impact the body and being in such a way that it can give people some really helpful information.